welcome back to another edition of Our City. A few things going around the city of Elizabeth this week. On Wednesday, February 13th at 5:30 in the evening, I'm going to join the Greater Elizabeth Chamber of Commerce and their Business After Hours networking event. This will be held at the Embassy Suites Hotel, located at 95 International Drive near the Jersey Gardens Mall. And on Friday, February 15th at 11 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to attend the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. It's called a coffee chat. Terminal 1 redevelopment program. It's going to be held at the Elizabeth Public Library. And what we're attempting to do is to work with a Port Authority structure in order to get jobs for Elizabeth residents and contractors to rework what is known now as Terminal A into Terminal 1 at Newark Airport. And on Monday, February 18th, please be advised that City Hall will be closed in observance of George Washington's birthday. If you need information concerning these events or any other events, please call our Public Information Office at 908-820-4124. And for the first part of this evening's show, I'm pleased to be joined by Pat Byrnes, who is the newly appointed fire director here in the city of Elizabeth on January 1st. Director, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for having me. It's
Good
a pleasure
to see
to
you.
be here. Thanks.
So, you worked yourself up in the fire department. You started off. Tell us a little bit. How did you get there? How many years in the department?
Well, I served 33 years in the suppression unit, or 33 years on the department. Most of it was in the suppression unit. My last 7 years, I worked as the administrative assistant to the chief and the director.
So being a fireman, was it something you always wanted to do? You were in the military before that.
Well, I went to Immaculate Conception Grammar School, and I used to pass 7 engine every day going to school, and I admired the firefighters. I used to go in and visit them, and they'd talk to me, and I always wanted to be a firefighter.
You started off in the military, though.
I started off in the Marine Corps. 4 days after graduating from high school, I found myself in boot camp in Perez, South Carolina. I served 3 years in active duty and 3 years in the inactive reserves.
Was that your choice, or did Dad say, hey, you're going to the
Marines?
Well,
I had gone to Edison Tech my senior year, and I liked carpentry, and I liked working with my hands, and I didn't know if I wanted to go to college, so I chose to go in the Marine Corps, and if I wanted to go to college later on, I would have chose that.
But you went to St. Pat's as well, right?
I went to St. Pat's for 3 years, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Edison.
And then I switched to Edison Tech my senior year.
Yeah, but we always talk about the county championship you were on, right?
That was in 1974, yeah. I was a sophomore, I played right field, and we beat Union, which was the big powerhouse of the state. They were number 1 in the state, we were number 2, then we were tied, and then we ended up losing in our state championship, and they won their title, so they became number 1 and we became number 2.
But you beat him in the county too.
We beat them in the county.
Yeah, good.
Yes.
So you've only been a fire director for a little over a month, and you worked in the fire department for 33 years. Tell us about the nuances and the differences being the director, being the guy in charge.
Well, when I was a firefighter, I always had to take orders, and when I became the director, now I'm making the decisions on a daily basis here in the city of Elizabeth regarding the fire department.
That's a pretty simple explanation. So Director, in dealing with the personnel matters in the fire department, at one time you were a union leader, so now you're the fire director. Can you see the different sides of the issue a little easier, maybe?
Well, I was always fair and firm with my men, and I knew exactly, what we could do to handle them. And as far as for disciplinary reasons, I tried to work with the administration for the best deal possible.
So now we have the first female fire officer.
Yeah, Sheena
That
Spence.
didn't happen when you were on.
No, many girls have tried, but Sheena is our first, yeah. And we hope to have a lot more.
Yeah, so it's an interesting, how's the camaraderie there?
Oh, the men welcomed her on open arms, and they trained her very well, and she's fitting in very nicely. She's in a ladder company right now, which is they go to the roof, they ventilate to take out the heat and the toxins and the flames for the guys going inside to put the fire out.
So I saw her father the other day, who was a captain, and
Darryl.
He was extremely proud that he said his daughter opened up her first roof.
Oh, that's proud, yeah.
Yeah.
I asked her 2 weeks ago, if she had any jobs. She said she had a couple of jobs. I said, you cut any holes? She said, not yet. But yeah, she finally did.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's a big deal?
Well, your adrenaline's flowing. You get up to the roof, and you can feel the heat on the roof. And once you cut that hole, you feel proud because you see the fire and the smoke coming out. And the guys inside got a big relief.
Oh, so that's the reason you cut a hole in
That's
the roof.
what you, to ventilate, yes.
It's so the guys inside can then,
It's pitch dark in there when they first go in because all the smoke. And once they cut that hole, it releases the toxins, releases the flames and the smoke, and it's like daylight in there then.
and it's easier for them to find the origin.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. So are there any new initiatives you're working on a policy basis for the fire department?
Well, with all the construction going on and the new businesses, which is a good thing for the city of Elizabeth, and the population's growing, we're trying to increase our, update our database so that the firefighters would know exactly what kind of construction they'll be responding to, the raw materials that are in the building, and what type of business that they have. So it makes it easier for them to set a goal on how to handle the situation.
So is there such a thing as if a group of firemen pull up to a fire, they can actually know what's in that building? Is that the
Dispatch, it usually comes out on a printout, and the dispatch will relay any messages that are on a board to show them if there's handicapped people in wheelchairs on certain floors, or some of the materials that are in there.
So if there's hazardous materials, things
Yes.
like that, that would naturally make it more flammable
That's
type
what we're
thing?
trying to do, is update that database.
Okay. And we also have 16 or 17 men in training right
We
now.
have 16 right now, and there's the 17th coming on shortly. And they're all doing good. They're training real hard. Their training division is getting them into physical and mental shape. They're learning basics of firefighting. They're having a lot of classroom time because they have to be state certified in firefighter 1 and level 2, and prepare them for their live burns. And they'll be graduating in late May, early June.
So one of the things we talked about, Pat, on numerous occasions is the training that you went under 33 years ago and now is a lot different and longer. Can you explain why?
Well, there's more state regulations now on what is involved in training firefighters and the instructor level that the instructors are at. When I came on, it was more or less basic stretch hose, put water on the fire, learn how to cut a hole in the roof, and that was pretty much the basics of it. Now it's much more advanced.
But it took you, what, a month?
3 months. 3 months.
of
I
training.
did 3 months. Yes.
And now it's
Now it's 5 months.
5 months of
Yes,
training
yes,
before
yes.
before they come to be a probationary officer.
Right. Before all the state regulations, we had the training sessions at 6 months, and through time, we were able to shortchange it because our training division got better at training them.
So it's a little less than it
Yes.
was, okay. Yeah, it's one of the things I talked with Director Bertullo about is how do you shorten the training time to get them out there quicker?
The training division's getting better at it.
That's the reason.
Yes.
Okay, good to know. So that's one of the changes. I was going to say, there's some of the things you could do to change, and that's probably one of the areas that's important.
Well, I'd like to see more female firefighters on. I'm sure Sheena Spence would like to see more. I'd like to see more women do better on the civil service exam, and
Well, a lot of people don't understand that process, Director. Maybe you can tell it. As the appointing authority, our role is limited to a numbers game, whoever finished highest.
yes, they take the applicants take the written test first, and they get scored on that. And then as we call them to be hired, then the state arranges them to take the physical part, which is pass or fail. But they're mostly main score is on the written part now, as opposed to years ago where the physical part was the score.
Well, I took the fire test when I was like in my 20s, and you had to drag a dummy up and down the floor.
Yeah,
at
that was
St.
I
Mary's High
did the
School.
same one at Thomas Jefferson High School.
Yeah, I did it at St. Mary's High School, actually.
Yeah, it was an obstacle course that you ran. You had to do it in a certain amount of time, and the best time got you, and 1/10 of a second could make the difference of 10 to 20 guys.
And if you didn't do it, that was
That
it.
was
You
it.
were
You
done.
were done. You were done.
But so it's not like that anymore, is what you're telling me.
No, it totally changed. Yes,
Written test.
written test first.
But is there a physical
There is yeah. They still have to go through the obstacle course.
dragging a dummy up and down the floor?
They do have to still drag the dummy, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't. Well, like I said, I haven't taken the test in 33 years.
So the new class is doing well, and they'll be out in May.
Yes.
And that'll help boost our totals up into the 250s, maybe?
We're at with the new recruits right now. Our TO is it's at 260 right now.
Oh, it is?
Yes. Yes.
So we're just about there.
Yeah, we have 3 guys retiring the 1st of February.
Okay,
So we'll be down to 257.
that's good.
Yeah, 250.
That's almost full strength.
Yes.
Yeah,
yeah.
because we had a difficult time during the recession where we didn't hire for a few years, and now we're building the
Yep,
department
now we're
back
building
up.
it back up again.
And so if people want to reach out to the fire department, in a non-emergency, who do they call and how do they get a hold of you or the command structure?
Well, we're located at 411 Irvington Avenue on the 3rd floor, and if someone needs to call a non-emergency number, it's 908-820-2805.
And if it is an emergency, they call?
Always call 911.
911.
Yes.
And that goes right in?
Right into our dispatch.
Right. And you're also in charge of the ambulance bureau?
We have ambulance, training, fire prevention, our administration, and the clerical civilians.
So does the fire prevention still go to schools and talk to kids?
Yes, absolutely.
Like when we were
On
there?
a daily basis.
Stop,
Yep,
drop,
stop,
and
drop,
roll?
and roll.
That's still part of the explanation?
Pretty much, yeah.
Have you been to one of these explanations in a while?
Not in a while, no. I plan on going, though.
Plan on going to listen.
Plan on going.
See how they do it.
Yes.
Well, I want to wish you luck as the new director of the fire department. I look forward to working with you, and thanks for taking the time to join us on the show.
Thank you, Mayor. It's a pleasure to be here.
Please stay with us after these messages. We'll be back with more of Our City. Hello, I'm Mayor Chris Ballwage, and I would like to talk with you about recycling in the city of Elizabeth. Recycling is a great way to reduce our overall waste, which eventually ends up in landfills. It also helps conserve resources and energy, helping to protect our environment. For decades, the city of Elizabeth has picked up your recyclables from the curb every Wednesday, alternating between glass, plastic, and cardboard. And most of the recycled cans and bottles were shipped to facilities in China for repurposing. But recently, China has changed the rules, and now China will only accept a fraction of our material. The tightening of the market is forcing the city of Elizabeth to produce better quality recyclables. So here are some tips to help make the city recycle more responsibly. No more white plastic bags or stretchy plastic of any sort as they jam up the recycling sorter. Do not recycle dirty cardboard containers or greasy pizza boxes. And if you have electronics like TVs or computers, do not put them out at curbside with recyclables or your garbage. Please take them to our recycling center at 523 Trenton Avenue, near the Goethals Bridge. Do not recycle pots, pans, small appliances, dishware, mirrors. Only recycle plastic containers if they have a number 1 or a number 2 at the bottom. Do not place styrofoam out with your recyclables. Also, make sure there is no plastic in the cardboard that you place at the curb. Styrofoam and non-recyclable plastic should be placed with your household garbage. Please recycle mixed paper, clean cardboard, rinsed aluminum, and metal cans, plastic bottles, and containers with a number 1 or a number 2 on the bottom, and clean glass bottles and jars. When placing your recyclables at the curb on Tuesday night, your cardboard should be tied or nestled, and your plastic cans should be placed in an open container. For more tips and a handy pickup schedule, refer to your city recycling brochure or download the Recycling Coach app from your phone's app store, or visit our website under Elizabeth Apps/Elizabeth Recycles. For more information, call 908-820-4150. Here in the city of Elizabeth, let's work together to recycle responsibly. Welcome back to our city, and for the second half of the show, I'm pleased to be joined by Officer Jennifer Perez of the L.E.A.D program. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us, L.E.A.D versus DARE. L.E.A.D is different, but similar.
Similar concept. LEAD stands for Law Enforcement Against Drugs. We also have a different mascot. We have
who's that?
Leo. Leo is a Labrador Retriever. He's much cuter than I think Darren was.
Darren was the
The
DARE,
lion.
The lion,
Yeah,
right?
our DARE lion.
Is DARE gone?
DARE is still implemented in other states in some places. We went with LEAD because DARE was removing the marijuana aspect, which is pretty huge, if you ask me.
So what are we going to do with marijuana if it becomes legal? What do we teach these kids?
Just as we teach them about tobacco and alcohol and prescription drugs, you know, the dangers of using it not prescribed or irresponsibly. You know, the same thing, you know, we teach them about alcohol. It's legal, but there's still negative consequences that can come out of it.
And overindulgence,
Yes.
that type of thing. So how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing the LEAD program for 7 years now.
And what do you think? You like it?
I like it. I do, I like it.
But you told me something before the show that is special this year. You have your daughter in the class.
I do. So there's a little bit of a conflict there. She doesn't get a fair chance at winning the essay contest.
Yeah, but
even if I don't judge, I cannot pick her.
But it's
There's
still
no
a good
way.
ethical lesson for your daughter, right?
It is.
Yeah,
It is.
it's
And
that.
a lot of it, she's seen it, she's heard it, she hears it at home. We talk about it often. So it's almost like a refresher course for her.
She still has to do the essay, though, right?
She most certainly does.
you're not
And
gonna-
she will be reading it in class too.
So is this fifth grade or sixth grade?
Fifth grade.
Fifth grade.
Yes.
And the LEAD program and Law Enforcement Against Drugs, is that a nationwide organization or is it akin to New Jersey?
There's some places that are using it, some places that are not. It was originally founded in Florida by a truck driver named Mendez, and he was the one who actually started this program.
So is the curriculum similar then, because you were doing both, right?
I did.
When did LEAD start?
The year I started.
Oh,
So
okay.
I actually was trained for 2 weeks to teach DARE, and then I got thrown into the schools to teach LEAD. So I trained on that curriculum, so I have an idea of what it was like. I like the LEAD personally more. It's more interactive with the kids. There's role plays, there's games, there's activities. We give them scenarios, so it's much more fun, actually.
So in teaching the kids against drugs, do you get questions? I mean, some of these kids have to deal with drugs in their house.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so are they shy or do they raise it and say, you know, my mom smokes or my dad? Do they come up and tell you that privately or do they raise it right in class?
Oh, the kids have no filters. So we teach them in the beginning. When we tell stories, we respect people and we refer to them as someone I know. I always tell them someone you know may not want us to know their business. So let's be respectful. So sometimes kids will raise their hand and they'll be like, oh, my uncle, you mean someone I know? And they're like, someone I know. Okay. And that's how we try to get them to tell stories. I encourage them to share stories sometimes. Some of these kids actually know things that I'm like flabbergasted that they even know about, that they're exposed to. It's kind of sad, actually, some of it.
Some of it is, yeah. So who else participates in the LEAD program besides you?
We have Officer Rich Hurler and Ina Silva. They're the other two LEAD officers that also teach the program.
Now, do all three of you do one class or do you split it up? How does it work?
So we each have schools. We try to split it so we have more or less the same amount of classes. Right now, I counted, and we have approximately a little over 100 fifth grade classes between all the schools and the private schools. So splitting that up between 3 officers, it's pretty
difficult.
hectic. Yeah.
And so you do, say, one class on a Tuesday and then another school on a Wednesday?
Like today, I had 5 classes. Well, I typically have on a Monday. I have 5 classes on a Monday, which I try to do the same school all in one day so that I'm not going back and forth from school to school, but sometimes it doesn't always work out that way.
Because travel cuts into the actual class time.
A lot.
So Jennifer, tell me, how do you start the LEAD program? What's the first thing you teach these kids?
So our first lesson, well, the very beginning, obviously, I do an introduction. I answer questions that kids may have about me, get all of that out of the way, and then we go into our actual curriculum. So our first lesson, we'll talk about goal setting. Our second one is decision making. We teach them stop, think, act, reflect before making a decision. Our third one, we talk about feelings, emotions. Our fourth lesson is geared towards, feelings, emotions. Fourth one is communication skills. We teach them how to use assertive communication versus passive and aggressive.
So in communication and emotions, do you get into bullying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also, with the aggressive communication, how it can lead to you being a bully or how it can lead to you coming off as just a bitter or nasty person. Then we go into our peer pressure, alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, and other street drugs.
And the reaction from the kids is one of rapt attention or somewhere between there and like, why am I here?
I honestly think when the one lesson that every class I've ever taught that has had the kids like jaw dropping is usually our tobacco lesson. We do show them some pictures of
What
cancer.
people look like.
Yeah.
That stay on tobacco and how their skin changes.
Yeah, that and also like actual pictures of, the lungs, pictures of mouth cancer, emphysema. So.
And that sinks in.
It does.
It does.
It does. Some of these lessons you'll actually get a student who you can tell from the looks on their face sometimes that maybe their parent uses tobacco or something. But I've had students actually take home what they learn, and I remember one year a student coming in excited and saying, "My mom's going to quit smoking because I told her what I learned about." So it helps.
That's special.
Yeah.
So you said 100 classes among 3 officers. How many kids are in each class usually?
You can get 20 to 25 kids. One year I had a class that had close to 40 kids with 2 teachers in that one classroom. And it's the more students, the harder it is to teach. It's hard to get them all focused.
And Jennifer, when you talk about the kids in the class and the program, it's really difficult to measure the success of the program though. So how do you judge it? How do you think the impact works or not work?
They do have some statistics, and I will say since I started it, a lot of the numbers have gone down as far as percentage-wise to younger kids using some of these products.
So you think less and less kids are using?
Yes and no.
Yes and no, right?
Yes and no. This spring we will start our new curriculum. We're actually finally incorporating hookah and the e-cigarettes, which right now is a huge thing.
What was the second one? Vaping?
Vaping, e-cigarettes, the Juul, all of those things. So we'll be introducing that now.
So that's something new for the LEAD program?
It's going to be in our new curriculum.
And when you talk about that, do you talk about things that it could lead to other things?
Most certainly, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And smoking, and I'm just curious to know how the marijuana is going to be separated out.
I actually have a lot of kids asking me now, because kids watch the news. I know my kid watches the news, so she sees a lot of what's going on, and they ask, isn't marijuana legal? And I'm like, in some states it is, but it's not here, and once it is, it's taxed, it's regulated, and I have to explain to them the difference between the marijuana you're going to get on the street versus, something that's regulated.
So when students complete the LEAD program, do they come back? Do you see them afterwards? Do you maybe run into them in high school? And I guess some of these kids you might even run into in the street, which is...
I do all the time. Yeah. I actually, just 2 weeks ago, was doing a school traffic, and I ran into a student I had my first year, who I still very much remember him by name. And he comes over, gives me a hug, and tells me that when he grows up, he goes, well, in a few years, I'm going to take the police test. He goes, I want to be a police officer. I was like, do you really? So he made me promise that one day we'll get to work together when he becomes a police officer. So hopefully I'll get to work with him one day.
That would be pretty cool.
It would.
And we celebrate the success of the DARE program every year with the Jamboree.
Mm-hmm. We have a LEAD Day Jamboree. It's usually in May.
Oh, I said the DARE program, the LEAD program we celebrate.
Did I say DARE too?
I think I did, yeah. We celebrate the LEAD program with a Jamboree at the end.
Yes, it's been DARE Jamboree for so many years, but a LEAD Day Jamboree. It's usually in May, and then once the students, they finish their curriculum, they do their essay, we have a graduation for them also at the end of the school year.
And the essays, I've read some of the essays and listened to some of the essays. Some of them you can tell are really done on their own, but some of them you can tell have parental help too. Mm-hmm. But the parental help, you got to wonder if that message is really sinking in at times. It might sink into the parents more so.
Yeah, you know what, I encourage the parental help sometimes because that means that the parents are actually involved in what their kids are doing. You know, you can tell when a kid really puts effort, when a kid's getting help, and it kind of reflects at what they have going on at home also. So parents being involved to me, is extra.
So parental help on the essay is you view it as a positive.
I view it as a positive influence, maybe on the kid to the parent and the parent to the kid. Just them being involved is good. Does it help their essay? Yes. There's some kids that when you can tell when they did it on their own and how they did it, it doesn't always necessarily go by what the parents teach them that we.
Do you think less kids use cigarettes and alcohol and drugs because of the the LEAD program?
I think it helps. I think it helps, especially when we do our tobacco lessons. Some of these kids, there's one story we talk about, the Sean Marcy story, where when we read these essays at the end and they're reading them in class, you hear almost every kid say Sean Marcy, Sean Marcy.
What is the Sean Marcy story?
Sean Marcy is someone who started using dip, which is the smokeless tobacco, when he was 12 years old, and developed mouth cancer when he was 18, getting ready to graduate high school. He had to have surgery. They removed part of his tongue, and then more surgery because the cancer kept coming back, and part of his jaw was removed. I mean, it's pretty harsh, but it sinks in. You know, it's one of the stories that's included in the program. And he ended up dying when he was 19 because the cancer just kept coming back.
So it was that quick?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if people want information or parents want information about the LEAD program, how do they get it?
They can call the police department. We send home a permission slip. Every kid has to get a permission slip. I always put my office number on there. I tell parents if they have any questions, feel free to contact me, and I can give them whatever information they need on it.
That begs another question. Do parents deny access to the LEAD program?
I actually have had parents say no. And when a student tells me, a parent says no, I'll actually make that phone call home and I'll explain to them. Sometimes they think it's an after-school program, and I tell them, no, it's during school hours. Whenever we do class, your child's going to have to leave class and not be able to participate in the program. Some parents will tell me, well, my kids they don't use those things. And I'm like, I understand they don't, but I'm here to teach them that in a few years, they're going to be introduced to it by their friends. So I think it's better that they learn the dangers from me than their friends telling them, everybody does it, it's okay, it's not a big deal.
Does that convince some parents?
Yeah, it works sometimes. They end up signing them, yeah.
Okay. Well, Jennifer, thank you for your work on the LEAD program.
Thank you.
As well as Officer Silva and Officer Hurler. That you all do a great job, and I thank you for taking the time to join us on the show this evening.
Thank you.
And say hello to your daughter for me.
I absolutely will.
Okay. I'm Mayor Chris Bolwage, and I want to thank you for taking the time to watch Our City this evening. I want to thank Miss Jennifer Perez, an officer with the LEAD program in the City of Elizabeth Police Department, and Patrick Byrnes, the new director of the Elizabeth Fire Department. We'll see you next week on another edition of Our City.